everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode of My Heritage Scrapbook. I am using this layout from Studio Calico's Layout of the Week as my inspiration for my page today. I'm going to link to that layout in the description below. Here are a few supplies that I pulled, mostly some 6x6 papers that I had hanging out from old Studio Calico card kits. So what I'm going to do is scrap these two photos, one black and white and one in color, of my great-grandmother, her sisters, and their mother. The photos are about 16 years apart, roughly. I'm not sure exactly when in the 40s the black and white photo was taken. But I wanted to show you guys how you can mix black and white and color photos in your heritage scrapbooks. So what I did to select all of the pattern papers was I looked at the colors of their dresses in the photo on the top left there. And that's how I kind of got the color scheme for this layout. And these are pretty modern patterns. They were at a wedding, I believe, in the colorful photo. And my great-grandmother was the mother of the bride. So she's in the pink dress, and my great-great-grandmother is in the far right in the blue dress. So I really wanted to feature pink because that's what my great-grandmother is wearing. So what I did here was I cut down a couple of squares to a 2x2 size, and I wanted to test them out on the page to see if that was the size I wanted to go with. So I get those laid down, and I'm not exactly sure at this point where my photos are gonna go. So I thought that with the 6 or so patterns that I wanted to use, that it would be too busy to have several small blocks. So I go ahead and cut 2 squares from each piece of pattern paper into a 3x3 size. Now I skipped ahead so you don't have to see me cut all of those little squares out, and here I am just trying to figure out their placement on the page. I wanted to use that green and white polka dot because my Aunt Jeanette was wearing a Kelly green dress in the photo, and I wanted to bring that in with all the pastels. So I only cut one block of that because I didn't really want that green to overpower the page. So I decided to put the photos on the bottom and to layer a doily behind each of the photos. And something else that I don't normally do is use different orientations in my photos. So I very rarely will use a vertical and a horizontal photo on the same layout, but I did this time and I like how it turned out. I also thought I might want to use some ribbon. I have a couple dozen at least rolls of ribbon and glitter tape that I'm not very good about using, so I definitely want to break into those. And so here I am looking at the layout, and I decide that the squares are too big after I fidget with the ribbon for a little bit longer, and I decide that's too much. And I should know this about myself, I end up going back to the 2x2 squares. So I'm gonna figure out exactly where I want the doilies and the tags and some of my embellishments. So, like I said, I cut everything back down to 2x2 square, and then I realized that I did want a couple more squares underneath the bottom photo on the right. So I go ahead and get those cut down too. I'd also pulled out a couple more ribbons and then those buttons from an old Studio Calico card kit. I end up vetoing those because they're very bulky. They're actual buttons, and it was just too much on the page. So you'll see I oriented these here with some of the papers coming off of the bottom and the top of the page. And I might have preferred, once I saw the finished layout, I might have preferred to have a white border along the bottom and the top, but I think it's fine. It's not a deal breaker. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish getting those stuck down, and then I'm going to move on to getting my photos down also. And like I said before in one of my previous videos, I no longer buy white cardstock. I have a ton of 12x12 paper pads because when I first started scrapbooking, I thought that was the best deal. I could get all of these papers from all these collections that I loved. Well, the thing is, I didn't love all of the papers. So I have a lot of 12x12 paper pads that are just kind of sitting there not being used. So instead of buying white cardstock when I want to use it, I'm just going ahead and taking some of the patterns that I don't love and flipping them over and using that as my white cardstock base. So just before I got the photos adhered down, I realized that I didn't have them matted, and that's something I always do. So I went through the 6x6 Create Paper Storytellers collection and pulled this piece of paper out. Now it's a white cardstock base, those tags are cream, some of the papers are not a bright white, so I'm definitely mixing and matching with the white and cream here, and I like how it looks in the end. So I'm using these Teresa Collins tile stickers here to note the dates of both of the photos on the page, and I am just going to put them on the tags that I have. And then I'm pulling out these stickers, I think they're called Kenzie, for my title. On each layout, I prominently feature the year the photo was taken, so that you can just, as you're quickly flipping through the albums, you can see exactly how old some of these photos are. This photo on the left, the black and white one, I think it was taken definitely before 1949, because my great-great-grandfather is in another one of these photos. He passed away in 1949, so I think it might be 1948, so I wrote circa there, preceding the year on that one tag. Next, I'm getting these stickers down on some wax paper to figure out where I want my title. And I don't know if you can see this, but the adhesive backing is actually sticking to that plastic sheet because these are so old. So I didn't even really need the wax paper in reality, but I had it, so why not use it? So I decided pretty quickly that I like my title on the pattern paper, and it rests nicely on top of the photo. And then I decide to start on my journal. So before I get my journaling down, I pull out these watercolors. I think I got them from Michael's or something. And I wanted to add some color to those tags. So I'm just using this pinkish purple color here because that's what color my great-grandmother's dress is in the photo, to kind of bring some more color to it. I end up swapping out the top tag with a brand new one because it was just really bright, and I thought that it just wasn't working for me, so I ended up swapping it out. And I think I also tore it when I was trying to put some twine through the hole. This is some silver thread I had from Studio Calico. It totally unraveled and was bright silver, and it didn't really match the feel of the layout that I wanted, so I pull out some different twine. So here I have just a huge big tangled mess of twine. I do not recommend storing your twine this way. If I teach you anything, I hope that it is, don't let your twine get into a huge tangled ball because it's a nightmare. So I figured out what I wanted to say on my steno pad for my journaling. I had to do some research on Ancestry, and I had to confirm with my aunt exactly who, like which sister was which in these photos. I had a pretty good idea, but I just wanted to make sure before it was immortalized in my heritage scrapbook. So I go ahead and swap that tag out, and I think I wait to put the twine through it until I'm done journaling. So I end up saying, pictured on the left are Aunt Alice, great-great-grandmother Julia, great-grandmother Sylvia, and Aunt Jeanette at 410 Center Street in Nutley, New Jersey. They are pictured on the right about 16 years later at Aunt June and Uncle Tom's wedding. Left to right are Aunt Alice, Sylvia, Aunt Jeanette, and Julia. I'm going to do another layout talking about the address that I had mentioned, and you guys will see in a few weeks exactly how I get that documented, but I think it's pretty cool to include addresses if you know them, and a lot of that information is available on the census data that is free to search. But I'm going to talk about that more later when I do a layout specifically about that address, so I hope you guys will come back and check that out. To finish up my layout, I go ahead and get a few pink enamel dots down. They're from Studio Calico's Color Theory collection, and like I said, I wanted to feature the color pink since my great-grandmother Sylvia is wearing pink in the photo on the right as mother of the bride. So once I get those on, that completes my layout. Here's a few close-up shots at my finished layout. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment below. If you'd like to see more videos like this, give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.